Hey, hey, F50 Women. We are here today with Donna Renee Patrick, and she is serious about walking in her unique purpose and helping others to do the same. She's an award-winning author. She's a musician. She's a director. She's a certified instructor, a radio host, and a worship leader. She's going to talk about that. So thank you so much, Donna, for being here.
I appreciate you having me today, Julia. Thank you.
So we want to get to know you. We want to get to know you at the beginning. So we're just first going to start off and learn about who you were as a younger woman. What did you want to be? What were you like?
You know what? That's a very interesting question, and I will just get right into it. I've always been, if my mother were here, she would tell you, I've always had what she called a headstrong of my own.
Okay.
In other words, I was going to do it myself. But I've always had a strong nature. I always have. I grew up in Decatur, Illinois. I grew up in the church. And, who was I as a younger woman? I was headstrong. I was determined. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew where I wanted to go. I had an excellent foundation at home, in the church. And, when my mom and dad split up, when they divorced, I was about maybe second grade when that happened. And it affected me differently. It affected me differently than it did my sisters. But I think some of that inner strength, Julia, started there because after the divorce, I wanted to be strong for my mom.
Okay.
And so I was little, I didn't really understand what was going on, but I knew I wanted to be there for my mom. I wanted to be strong for her. And so I think that's where a lot of that inner strength came from, even way back then. And I took that into adulthood. And sometimes being a strong Black woman, sometimes it works for you.
Yeah.
And sometimes it works against you. And so I've seen that. But, to your other question, though, what I wanted to be when I was younger, when I went to high school, I went all through high school wanting to go to law school. I wanted to be a lawyer. I had no plan B. That was it. There was no alternative plan. I went through high school to be a lawyer. I go off to college, I finish, and I start applying to law school. Well, the first time around, I didn't get in. I said, okay, no worries. I'll try again. So I wait a year. I changed up some things. I narrowed down my list of schools. I called up some friends of mine who were lawyers and got wisdom from them. And I also took a prep course for the LSAT to improve my chances. Well, I apply again to law school. Again, I'm turned down. I said, okay, now what? Okay. So I went to paralegal school. I love the legal profession. I just loved it. Julia, there was no place else I wanted to be.
Really?
When I didn't get into law school, I went to paralegal school. And that's what I did in corporate America for well over 20 years. And I learned so much. But I didn't realize what God was doing even back then. He taught me how to write. Being in the legal profession all those years got me to 2 books. I learned to write. I became a contributing writer for different Christian publications. I edited my own books because I knew how, based on my time in corporate America. And so those skills just transferred. They just transferred. But I just, I loved corporate America. That's where I wanted to be.
Nice. It's rare. I don't know if it's rare. Well, let's just say, because I'm not a statistician and I don't know for sure, but it feels rare that somebody finds something they love so much and still talks about transferable skills. Usually you think about that when I'm done with what I'm doing and I want to transfer and do something else.
Exactly.
So did you look for these other things to transfer the skills to, or is it because you're looking back now, you're like, look at that?
No, I'm looking back and saying, look at that.
Okay.
Because I didn't realize all the things I was learning. I edited my own books, Julia, because I learned how to do that in the legal profession, writing for lawyers, drafting motions and writing correspondence and assisting with appellate briefs and things. I knew how to edit. I knew how to edit for context. Right. And so, but I had no idea. I'm looking back now saying, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Look what God set you up for, right? You didn't even know it was coming.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So any regrets or for not becoming a lawyer or going to law school? That I don't really know the details of the difference, but are there any regrets? Or are you thinking this was the best way to go for me?
No regrets, really. And I'll tell you why. Even as a paralegal working with lawyers, I
Yeah.
just, I mean, as a paralegal, you do the work. They make the long checks, but you do the work. And so I met so many great people. I got some great experience in writing and editing and proofreading. Based on what I learned, I don't really have any regrets, Julia.
Good.
I really can't say that I do because I learned so much in the process.
Now, do you think it's because of your relationship with God, because of your faith, that you don't have regrets? How much does that play into just being able to see the blessing of everything you've gone through?
Everything. It has everything. It plays into everything because when you understand in your relationship with the Lord, when you understand that He is guiding your steps, when you understand, even when they're not the steps that you originally planned, God's way is always the better way. And so it could be, I know they told me why I didn't get in, but there was something higher to that there was more going on than that. And I believe, my relationship with the Lord had everything to do with that because He was ordering my steps and He placed me where He wanted me to be.
Yeah.
I'm still in the law office. I was still there. I just wasn't functioning in the capacity that I had planned to function.
Right.
But God yet provided the blessing along the way.
Do you feel like, did you always have that? You talked about being a young girl and your parents were in the church and you always had that Christian foundation. But did you always have that kind of faith and that kind of humility or submission, if you will, to the plan, to the bigger plan?
No.
Okay.
No. No, I didn't, because I wanted to do what I wanted to do.
All right.
And of course, I wasn't in God 20 then as I was 20 years later.
Right.
And even now. So no, it was a process. It was a process, believe me, to come to that humility, to come to that trust, to come to that knowing, God, you've got the better plan. Yeah. You know what's going on here. I don't. No, that was a process. I can tell you that. It was a process.
So I'm going to jump some of the questions because this is a perfect time to ask you. So from your perspective now, looking back at on your younger self, what is the one thing you would have told her, you would tell her?
Woo, I love that question. I would tell my younger self, do it scared.
Nice.
Do it.
Yeah.
I mean, if your dream doesn't scare you, it's not big enough. Nice. I would tell my younger self, do it scared. And I would also tell her, dodge, whenever you see mediocrity, you go the other way. Whenever you see mediocrity, whenever you see, I want to stay in my comfort zone. No, you don't. Because nothing great, nothing amazing happens in your comfort zone. You got to get out of your comfort zone. You have to do what makes you uncomfortable to get where you're trying to go. That's what I would tell her. Yes,
a message. I think that message needs to get out there because things seem so easy. The internet, fast money and cars, and everybody thinks that you get there just overnight.
I know, right? Do you have Michelle Obama's book, Becoming?
Yes.
Isn't it an excellent book?
Yes.
Michelle takes us through her childhood on through being married to a 2-term president. And she tells us who she became in the process. And that's something we miss, Julia. We miss that. As you mentioned, we want the cars, the houses, we want the stuff. But in all of that, who are you becoming?
Yeah.
Are you becoming someone who is materialistic? Or are you becoming someone who is more humble and more strong? Are you becoming someone who stops to consider your decisions before you make them? Who are you becoming in the process? That's the question.
That is the question. Or else what's the point?
Exactly. Yeah. I agree. I had to learn that. I'm still learning that. Yeah. Who are you becoming? Even though we go through difficult days, even though we go through really painful times, the question to ask ourselves is, who am I becoming? Am I becoming bitter? Am I becoming angry or resentful? Or am I becoming more trustful? Am I becoming a better person? because of what I went through. That's the question.
And I hope everybody hears that is the question. Who are you becoming?
Who are you becoming?
So on that note, please tell us about you now. Tell us about what you do. We heard about all the amazing things you're doing just in little snippets, but tell us about you.
You know what, right now, Julia, I'm doing a lot of writing now. I do a lot of writing for other people. I do some editing. I do a lot of editing work because I really enjoy that. I enjoy proofreading. And so being a great communicator, both on paper and verbally, I really enjoy helping other people look good on paper. As I'm on staff at my church as a musician. And so I spend a lot preparing for rehearsal and things like that. And I'm getting ready for my radio show to start back up on Monday. Matter of fact, the 20th.
Okay. Tell us about that. Tell us about your radio show.
Well, you know what? I started in radio, and Julia, my background is not in communications. It's not in journalism. But back in 2016, I went to a radio station and they took a chance on me, and I stayed there for 4 years, and I just loved it. And so once the pandemic hit, I left and I started doing my show from home, but I'm returning to the station. My show will be different this time. It'll still be all about what we need to know about praise and worship. It'll still be about worship being a lifestyle. It'll still be about that. But I'm also in a global position to showcase other businesses, authors, recording artists. I'm in a great position to help them get their message out there. So I'm excited about that.
Nice. So what made you go to the radio station? Tell us about how that happened.
You know, yeah, it kind of just happened. I'll tell you what. You know, when I was laid off from corporate America, my mother was ill at the time. And after my mother went to be with the Lord, well, I'm looking for another position. And so I said, you know, radio might be fun. So I checked out this radio station, and that was that.
There you go.
So there was no plan. It just happened.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm going to put that link in the show notes so everybody can get to that radio station and listen to you when you start on Monday. That's incredible. And what kind of things you talk about praise and worship? What is your biggest message or overarching message? What is the one thing you want people to know?
The one thing, my show is all about making worship a lifestyle. My passion is worship.
What?
Ministry.
That's my word for next year. Worship. That's the word I'm going to focus on for next year. What? Talk about it. Let's hear it.
See, God knows how to do it. God knows who to put together, Julia.
Yes.
You know, Julia, I'm a worship leader. And so my passion is helping people understand why worship is not just on Sunday morning. Worship is a lifestyle Monday through Sunday. It's a lifestyle because God is worthy of our worship every day. He's not just worthy on Sunday. We're going to talk about on the show how your worship and your purpose are connected. We're going to talk about how worship and your leadership are connected. And so I'm going to broaden my message. I'm going to broaden my message this time to really let people know your worship and your purpose are connected. Whether you are a leader in your home, in your business, on your job, if you are a manager, whatever your leadership position might be, worship is tied to that. And so we're gonna deal with that on my show this time around.
Beautiful.
I love praise and worship are my passions. I'm called to this. I'm called to be a worship leader, and I just love it. And the thing is, God lit this fire under me for worship ministry many years ago. And the fire yet burns. And he's commissioned me to teach others why worship is a lifestyle and it's not just something we do on Sunday.
Yeah.
Passion of mine.
So give us a couple of practicals or one practical. Worship in everyday life, worship at work, worship in your leadership. What does that look like? So in a meeting, I just break out in song at the beginning, or what is that? You know, because people are listening and they're like, what does that mean?
Absolutely.
Worship?
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, worship as a lifestyle means that you recognize God as owner, as Lord. You recognize him as the creator of all things, including you and the things that you enjoy. God gave you the life that you have, the money you have, the family you have, the job, the business, whatever it is that gives you life. God is responsible for that. That's what lifestyle worship looks like.
Okay. So it's a lot inside, internal, a lot that goes on inside all the time. You're just always recognizing. I just
Absolutely.
got this promotion. Thank you, God.
Absolutely. Worship is a response, Julia, to what's already going on in here.
Okay.
And see, that's why people want to join the praise team, because they know how to sing. No, you join the praise team because you are already a worshiper and you want to help other people go where you've been. That's why you join the praise team.
Nice. So tell us what along that path from the young woman you were to where you are now, what is your biggest life lesson, or what made everything switch for you? What turned the light on?
My biggest turnaround for me, Julia, was recognizing the things that were holding me back. Self-doubt, bullying myself, being so hard on myself. You didn't do this, you didn't do that, you did. Well, what about what you did accomplish?
Yeah.
You know, my turnaround, Julia, was stop thinking about what you haven't done and start focusing on what you have accomplished.
Yeah.
Focus on what you have accomplished. Focus more on that than what you have not yet accomplished. Because, Julia, I guarantee you, when we sit down as women, okay, is that better?
There, you're back.
Gotcha. Okay.
There we go.
You know how in our kids' schools, Julia, we hear about bullying?
Yes.
We hear about bullying all the time. Well, that's what I was doing to myself.
Yeah.
I was beating up on myself, and I did it for years. I did it for years, Julia, until the Lord had to show me, stop. Count your blessings. Look at what I have allowed you to do. Look at what you've gotten done. Stop focusing on what you haven't done. Yeah. Stop doing that to yourself. And I think as women, when we really sit down and make a list of our blessings, the blessing list is going to be much longer than what I haven't done yet list.
Yeah.
So that was a turnaround for me. Stop focusing on what you haven't done. Focus on what you have gotten done.
And why did that come about? Were you praying and it was like a revelation, or, I don't know, did somebody say something to you that triggered, why am I telling myself that? How did that happen?
Well, you know how you have talks with yourself?
Yes.
Sometimes you have talks with yourself and, you're kind of evaluating and you're kind of, thrashing some things out, and you're kind of, how come I knew I was being held back. And so I really had to look deep into myself. And that's how that came about. And the Lord revealed to me. It was revelation, like you said.
Yeah.
God brought the revelation. This is why. Yeah. This is why. Self-limiting beliefs, self-doubt, what you can't do, what you do. No. And it was all negative. It was all negative.
Yeah.
I said, oh my God. Have I done that to myself?
Yeah.
That was the turning point. And that's what happened. I was having a talk with myself. And I was trying to figure out, why am I not any further? You know how we do. Why am I not any further along?
Yes. You hit a wall at some point and you can't get around it. Yeah.
In my talk with myself, God revealed to me what the problem really was. And it was all in here. I had to get out of my head, Julia. Yeah. I had to get out of my head. Yeah. And stop believing those negative thoughts about myself. Just stop. I didn't grow up in a home, Julia, that told me what I couldn't be. I didn't grow up in that kind of home. Nobody ever told me what I couldn't be. Nobody ever told me what I couldn't do. So I'm not even sure where those limiting beliefs came from. I'm just not sure. I don't know. Yeah. But I know I laid them down.
That's right. Yeah. That's the key. Yeah.
That's all I know. I stopped buying into them.
So many women need to hear it's okay to talk to yourself, but the conversation can't just be one-sided. You can't do that and look what you didn't do. Stop right there. Nobody asks the questions, well, why are you saying that?
Why? Exactly. Yeah. We need to know why certain things are happening. Why? Where did that come from? So I laid it down. God showed me 7 things. I call them the Unperfect Seven.
Okay.
I call them the Unperfect Seven. Okay. And if I can just real quick.
Yes, please.
And the Unperfect Seven. anxiety and worry, fear, scarcity mindset, limiting beliefs, not accepting fully who God created me to be, bullying myself, which I did a lot, bullying myself. And the last one is living beneath the greatness that God had placed in me, the Unperfect Seven. And I let it go. I had to let it go because it was holding me back.
Yeah. I know that's holding a lot of people back and they just don't know. And they're pointing their fingers at everyone and everything in their life saying it's their fault, it's their fault. Well, it's really all in there. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
I had to come to that realization.
So along your journey, did you have anyone to help mentor you? Who was that person or were they, if any?
I had many mentors.
Okay.
I had many growing up and even into adulthood. I still have them now, some different ones, but
right.
As I was growing up, my mother, Julia, I do what I do in ministry right now because of my mom.
Okay.
Because she paved the way. My mom laid the example for that, to love people, to serve people. Mom was my first mentor, and there were so many others who came along beside her and just augmented what she did at home. And over the years, Julia, I've had many people to pour in. I stand on a whole lot of shoulders today. I didn't get where I am by myself. So many people poured into me, male and female, starting with my mother, poured into me to help me be where I am now.
Help us to understand, for the new mothers and the older mothers and the grandmothers, help us to understand what that looks like to be a mom like that paves the way. Give us a little insight. What was that like? Was it what she said or didn't say? Yeah.
Well, both. Okay. It's what she said. It's what they all said and what they didn't say. Because my mother never told me what I couldn't do. Okay. Neither did my father. You know, some parents, unfortunately, children hear you'll never be anything. You're just like your daddy. And that's sad to me. I don't think any child should ever be told that. But it's what my mom did say. You know, she raised us to grow up, go to school, get a degree, go to work. But as I got older, the business ownership bug bit me. And so I wasn't happy anymore. And I knew even in corporate America, I knew God had more. Okay. I knew God had more, but I was afraid to go for it at that time. Okay. I was secure. I was safe. I was in my comfort zone. That's what that was. I was in my comfort zone. And so I didn't have the courage at that time to go for it. So it took some years. For me to get there and not be afraid to get out there, get comfortable. I call it getting comfortable with the uncomfortable.
I believe that's a thing you have to do if you want to get anywhere different or better.
Get comfortable with the uncomfortable. But I'm not sure if I answered your question. It was what my mother did say. She told me, you can do it. She said, prayer, you keep God first at all times. Even now, Julia, I remember every time I play my piano, and I play it all the time because that's what I do. But every time I played my piano, I remember my mother telling me as a young kid, she said, whenever you crawl on that piano bench, you put God first. She always told me that, and I still do.
Nice. Yes. She told you, yes, you can, baby. Yes, you can.
Yes.
That's so important to hear from moms and dads too. So what's next for you?
Well, as I mentioned, I'm going to restart my radio show on Monday. I'm really excited about that. I have another book that I've co-authored that just came out. It's called No More Unclaimed Promises. Okay. And it's an anthology of about 17 other women. And we're all just letting people know how we stood and are yet standing on the promises of God. And we're claiming those promises for our lives. So the book, I'm excited about that. And so we'll be launching that book officially in January. Okay. So that I'm very excited about. I've written two, but I have a third one in my spirit that I've already started on. And so we'll see if 2022, I can crank that third book out.
Okay.
We'll see.
Now, when you're writing these books, and especially since they are inspired by God, is it harder? Do you get to a point like, what am I doing? You know, sometimes I think when you write books that are just that deep, soul deep, that you get to a point and you're thinking to yourself, wait a minute, is God telling me this? Should I be doing this? Were you do a little question?
No,
Yeah.
no, I get you. I think I got you. I got you. Whenever my first two books were written about praise and worship, letting you know you still have a reason to praise God. But these four that I've co-written, little pieces of yourself come out. Little pieces of yourself come out and you wonder, do I really want to write that? Do I really want to put that in a book? But like you said earlier, people need to hear your story. People need to hear that because sometimes people think that they're going through it all alone.
Yes.
Sometimes people think they're the only ones going through this, and you're not. You're not. Somebody is going through it the same thing with you. But yeah, to answer your question, little pieces of you come out and you might stop to say, do I really want to put this in a book for the world to see? But when you think about it from the perspective of sharing, because Julia, I believe that we learn much more from our failures than we do our successes.
I agree.
And I've been to so many networking things where the facilitator said, I make this much money and I can go on 9 vacations a year and I can do this. And that's all well and good. That's great. Mm-hmm. But tell me how you messed up. Tell me about some of the mistakes you made along the way.
Yeah.
That helped you get to where you are now.
Yeah.
And I believe that in telling our story, whether on paper or whether right now we're talking, it's going to help somebody.
Yes.
People need to know where you've been. How did you mess up? What mistakes did you make? What did you learn from all of that?
Yes. And how did you keep going? And that leads me to my next question for you. Have you ever been through a hard time, or tell us about a hard time that you've been through that you still maintained that praise and worship to God?
Oh, girl, that's a loaded question.
Yes, it is.
That's a loaded question. Listen, I'm in a struggle as we speak.
Okay.
But God's word says, I will bless the Lord at all times.
Yeah.
And David doesn't qualify that. He doesn't say, I'll bless the Lord when I have a 2 million in the bank. He does not say when I have the house I want, when I have the car I want. He doesn't say that. He says, I will bless the Lord at all times. And I am there right now.
Yeah.
I'm there right now.
Okay.
And so I do it because that is what God requires. When you're going through a rough time, you don't always feel like praising and worshiping God. I'll be the first one to tell you that.
Yeah.
You don't always feel like it. But he said, let everything that hath breath. He said, God is looking for worshipers who will do so in spirit and in truth. The prophet said, though the fig tree not blossom, though there be no cattle in the stall, yet I will praise God. So is it easy to praise him? No, it's not. And praise and worship are both passions for me. But I'm not going to tell you that it's easy all the time, because it's not. I'm in a rough cycle right now as we speak. But I'm determined. I know that God is in control. I know God's got me. He said he'd never leave me. I know that. And so I've got to depend on that. I've got to cling to that. And my worship on a daily basis helps me to know that it makes God bigger and my problem smaller.
Smaller. Yeah. Yeah. But you have to do it, and you have to sort of muscle through it.
It's a determination. It's a determination.
Yeah.
It is.
And then I always think, if we pre-decide, so if times are good and we're praying, we worship, we get to go to God, and we pre-decide that when the storm comes, God, this is what I'm going to do.
Okay.
Then it makes it easier.
Exactly.
You're always standing.
It's about perspective. It's in how you look at it. How are you looking at your trouble? How are you looking at your trial? And what is your relationship with the Lord? And one thing trials will do is bring you to your knees.
Yes. Yes,
They'll
they do.
bring you to your knees. You can praise and worship all you want to, but that trial is going to bring you to your knees.
Yes.
It will.
Yes.
It can bring you closer to the God that you love.
So give us some advice from your playbook. So what is one book that you would advise all women to read?
You know what? One, I've got three, but I'm going to just list one.
Okay.
You're asking me for one.
Yes.
It's called Meet Me in the Valley.
Okay.
It's called Meet Me in the Valley by Kathy Green.
Okay.
It is an excellent book. And all of us have valley experiences. We all do from time to time. But Kathy helps you navigate the valley. She helps you navigate. You're in the valley. What are you doing while you're there? Are you complaining? Are you griping? Are you snotting and crying?
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with snotting and crying, but are you doing it from a complaining standpoint or from a God, I know you got me in this standpoint? That perspective. It's about perspective. But Meet Me in the Valley by Kathy Green is an excellent, excellent book.
Nice. And I think one of the most powerful things that I ever heard and accepted is that there are going to be valleys. You know, you come and you say, I love God. And so my valleys are over now, right?
We make a mistake in the church by telling people that once they come to the Lord, once they give their life to God, their problems will be over. Yeah. Not only is that not true, it's not in the Bible. It's not in there. You know, the Bible says, in this world, ye shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer. Jesus says, I've overcome the world. Another excellent book is No More Unclaimed Promises. The visionary author is Dr. Renee Williams. It is an anthology of several women, and we're helping other women to understand God has promises on your life that he's given you, but we got to claim them. It's easy to forget what God has promised to us because we're looking around at what we see with these eyes. But God's promises are still true, and we can all claim them for ourselves.
Nice. Interesting concept.
Yeah.
If I'm missing it, I want it. Yeah.
God has so many promises in his word for us, but we forget to claim them because we're so busy, you know, going after our dream, or we're trying to make our vision reality. And we should be doing those things. But sometimes it gets hard. And when it gets hard, we have to remember what God has promised us in his word.
Yeah. So Donna, what else would you like to share with us from your playbook? What is one thing that you can't miss doing every day? Let's go there.
Pray.
Okay.
Pray. Okay. I can't not do that. Remember when we were talking earlier about what worship looks like on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah.
That's part of it. Starting my day with prayer, asking God, thanking him for the day first, and asking him, what do you want me to do today? God, what's on my agenda? You know what's on my agenda, but what's on your agenda today? So prayer is just one of the things that I can't go without.
Okay. Nice. Now tell us about your prayer time if you want to share. Are you a quiet prayer, or do you like to be loud? Do you meditate a lot in silence? Does the silence kind of connect you with God better? And maybe just tell us about the possibilities of different ways you can pray, because I know people are different. Just like connecting with you and me, connecting with God may be different for other people.
We all connect with God in different ways. We all have different relationships with him. All of us are not on the same spiritual level. But you asked me about my prayer life, all of the above. Sometimes I get loud, depending on what's going on. Sometimes I whisper a prayer. Now, if I'm in Walmart and the line is really, really, really long, I'm saying, Lord, please let this line go quickly.
Yes.
Or if I'm on the freeway sitting in traffic and I'm late getting somewhere, Lord, please move this traffic out of my way. So sometimes I pray loudly, sometimes I whisper a prayer, but meditation all the time. Okay. Meditation is a part of me being part of my relationship with him. And what do I meditate on? I meditate on my favorite scriptures.
Nice.
I meditate on, I think one that we all probably know, Psalm 23.
Yeah.
The Lord is my shepherd. And there's so much in that song. The Lord really is my shepherd.
Yeah.
And shepherds don't leave the sheep.
Yeah.
They don't leave the sheep.
Ever.
Shepherds protect the sheep.
Yeah.
And so I meditate on that. That's one of my favorite ones. I have many, but I meditate on that when I meditate on Isaiah chapter 45, where God says, fear not. Fear not, I'm with you. When you walk through the water, you're not going to drown. When you walk through the fire, you're not going to be burned. I'm with you. That's the source of my meditation. I meditate on his word and I feed on that. I feed on it, especially when times are difficult.
And imagine if we could actually believe that he's with us and we can't drown and we won't burn. Just totally believe it.
We have to. That's a promise. God said, I'm with you. He said, fear not. I am with you. That's a promise.
Yeah.
That's a promise. He said, when you walk through the fire, you won't be burned. I got you. When you walk through the raging river, you won't drown. That's a promise.
Yeah. I love that you put it that way, that it's a promise. Yeah, God said that, and now I have to try to figure out how to be that, whatever he pronounced, but he promised.
It's a
yeah.
promise.
There's nothing you really need to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a promise, and they apply to you, to me, to all of us listening here this afternoon. Yeah. It applies to all of us. God's promises are for all of us. We just have to lay hold on them.
Yeah. And not doubt. Yes.
And not doubt. Not doubt.
That's incredible stuff. I am looking forward to your radio show, especially this year, because this is going to be a year of worship and praise for me. So I'm looking forward to figuring out how to do that better, or how to do it, period.
I can help you with that. And we don't have to wait for the radio show. You know how to get hold to me. If you have questions, if something you need, it's a passion for me. I love teaching people what that looks like, what worship looks like in everyday life. So you know how to get hold to me. Any questions you have, I'd be happy to sit down with you and we can visit.
That's awesome. I don't even know if I know what question to ask. So I might just call you and say, what do I do first?
And that's okay.
Right.
That's okay.
Right.
I'll help as best I can.
Nice. So tell us how the audience can get in touch with you after this podcast is over. Give us all your connections and websites and all of that. They will be in the show notes, so you can click on them, but also tell those who want to hear it.
Okay. My website is DonnaReneePatrick.com. And Renee is spelled Renay. And there you'll learn more about my ministry. You'll learn more about podcasts I've been on. You'll learn more about my show, what it's about. And there's going to be copies of my show on the website.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. So once I've done a show, they're going to automatically plug it into my website.
Beautiful. Okay. So we can do it straight there and get all of it.
Yeah. You get all of that. My books are there. You'll learn more about me. You'll learn more about my ministry and what I do. So yeah, go to my website. And then you can email me at DonnaReneePatrick@gmail.com.
Okay.
My social handles are the same across all my networks. On Facebook, it's Donna Renee Patrick, MA. On LinkedIn, it is Donna R. Patrick, MA. And I'm also on Instagram as Donna R. Patrick.
Nice.
So
Thank you.
I also have a Facebook group, Julia, called Infusion Worshipers Global, training and developing worship leaders. So if we're on Facebook, reach out and I'll be happy to invite you to the group and you come on in, because I think that'll help a lot going into 2022. If worship is your focus, being part of this Facebook group is really going to help. It's going to help clear up some things for you.
Nice. Give me that Facebook group name again.
It's Infusion Worshipers Global.
Okay.
And I say infusion because remember earlier in the podcast, I was talking about how worship and your purpose are connected. Whenever you infuse something, you're adding to it.
Yes.
And so worship and purpose, worship and leadership, we're infusing worship into your leadership, infusing worship into your purpose. Yeah. So that's why I call it Infusion Worshipers Global.
Beautiful. I'm in. Right after this podcast, I'm joining.
Sounds good. Sounds
Thank
good.
you, Donna, so much for being with us. Thank you for sharing your life and your wisdom and your worship.
Julia, thank you for having me on. I appreciate you so much. Thank you.